assumption to make.
Hey, what's going on, folks? How's everybody doing this Wednesday night? Hope everybody's doing well. John, good to see you, man. We'll give everybody a few minutes to jump on here. And if you are just coming on, make sure you say hello, tell us hi, let us know you're alive. We have apparently Noah's going to be part of the podcast over there, and some commentary in the background. All right, folks, we have a very special guest. In just a second, I'm going to introduce him. We got some other kind of points of business I want to discuss real quick before we get into that. Again, I know a lot of people are asking us about the 2023 training schedule. Folks, that will be coming up very soon. Welcome to everybody that's joining us now. And for those of you that are watching this in the future, hello, thank you for joining us. Make sure you are checking us out live Wednesday at 7 p.m. Again, we're going to cover lots of different topics. And yeah, so what else we got to discuss tonight, Summer? Work related, besides upcoming training schedule.
Did you say we can talk to future people?
We can talk to future people. We can talk in the future. This is like a time capsule. This is like an audio video time capsule. That's the amazing thing about this. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, no, you're good. No, you saved me because I don't know. I can't think of any bullet points right this second.
Yeah. So one thing's for sure. I just posted a quick short, folks. We just got in our order of Thunder Beast suppressors and accessories. It's going to be fun testing all these different ones out. A lot of these I've used in the past already, but again, getting those things on video. Past, present, and the future. We're covering all our basics, all times, all dimensions. Anyways, that's going to be a lot of fun. But if you're looking for a Thunder Beast Arms suppressor, make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com. We have also on there our suppressor covers, as well as different QD attachments, muzzle brakes, and things like that. So we always appreciate your support. And if you're looking for a Thunder Beast, which is absolutely, if it comes down to a suppressor for accuracy and precision, folks, Thunder Beast is the way to go. And you guys will see that in the upcoming videos that we're going to have. All right. So real quick, Marshall, if you will, can I introduce everybody? I was going to say, introduce everybody to yourself.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
And just for the record, my wife actually calls me Thunder Beast. So she's sitting over here and she does not think I'm funny. But anyway. Oh, okay. She's laughing.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
My name is Marshall Wilson. I'm a father of 9, husband to a retired Navy captain. Hold a master's degree in national security with a focus on how free societies devolve into totalitarianism. I was a missionary in the Amazon jungle, and I've served 2 terms as a state legislator in West Virginia. Run for governor, run for re-election as legislator. Just found out last night that I'm not going to get a 3rd term, but I'm going to stay engaged, and we're going to keep holding our elected employees' feet to the fire.
Well, you can take a breath now while you're doing it.
Yeah, folks. You know, again, I don't know, Marshall, when we met. It's been several years ago now, 5 or 6 years ago.
I believe I approached you about maybe some handgun training that we never got around to, like 6 years ago or something like that. Yeah, that's probably it.
Did we meet at the Great American Outdoor Show? Is that where we met?
No, we saw you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
We saw you there, but we had met before. And
Okay.
I can't remember exactly when or where we met, but yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. So anyways, you know, the thing that Marshall and I have talked a lot, and he's somebody that I definitely consider a friend. And, you know,
Thank God.
Again, our politics are very aligned, right? You know, constitutional conservatives, limited government. If you're really going to narrow it down to 2 sentences, that's it right there. Constitutional government and, you know, constitutional, anyways, limited government and constitutional conservative.
Good gracious.
So, again, that's what's really important. And I think that we're going to talk a little bit about the election that occurred last night and the results that are still coming in, but you know, it wasn't good for us. And I'd like to talk a little bit about those things. So make sure, folks, that you guys are throwing in your comments, questions on that, just thoughts. We'll bring those up on the screen and we'll discuss those. And again, every single one of these podcasts, folks, are supposed to be a conversation that we're having with you, not just, you know, 2 or 3 people up here preaching at you. You know, we want to include you into the conversation and hear what you have to say and make sure that, because I think, you know, people don't realize how you know, a lot of times people are, especially in this day and age, afraid to speak up politically.
Yep.
And you'd be surprised if you have a little bit of courage and you talk about what you believe is taking place, just how many people are thinking the exact same thing. And the problem is people are staying too quiet. So, you know, I want to make sure that we're at least doing a small part and making sure that we are setting conditions for people to voice their opinions. I think that's more important than ever because they're trying to shut us down, and you know, we just can't let that happen. It's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
So, again, if you're just showing up, make sure you say hello. Toss a hello up there so we can recognize you. But Marshall, so, you know, besides obviously your election not going quite the way that we wanted, you know, we have a lot of stuff going on out there. You know, again, we expected, like John said, kind of this red wave and even a red tsunami. And quite frankly, I think that's where the country is personally. I mean, my God, if the Republicans can't win an election or can't gain the seats that they should be gaining in this environment, I think we're in big trouble.
Well, I agree, but I think we need to look at it from the perspective of the average voter.
Mm-hmm.
So the Republicans over all these years, well, let's, if I can, a short history lesson. Yeah. Okay. So going back to the beginning of the 20th century, the progressives, Woodrow Wilson, FDR, these guys, basically what they said was that we have outgrown constitutional governance. That begins with, as far as I know, begins with a paper published by Woodrow Wilson, no relation to me, thank God, when he was a professor at Princeton, way before he became president, obviously. So he's a professor at Princeton, and he writes this paper that's published in 1887 that is called A Study of Administration. And in it, he proposes the end of constitutional governance because we're too stupid to govern ourselves. That what we really need is experts at all levels to tell us how to live, make all these decisions for us. So we need to basically scrap the Constitution and have a bunch of highly qualified, educated experts tell us how to live. And that's where this idea comes from. It's completely been, it's completely infused every aspect of our culture at this point. So these guys propose these things. They come up with all of these departments and bureaus and organizations. They're going to fix everything for everybody and tell us all how to live. And they're going to manage our investments. We're going to have Social Security because these wonderful, smart people in the government are going to manage our money for us. So you get the idea. And that's really what's going on here. So you've got that going all the way through the 20th century. And people are constantly giving more control of their lives to the government because, well, it's all a bunch of problems that are just too big for us to solve. We need the government to solve it. So we had 2 world wars, which only the government could solve. We had the Cold War, which only the government could address. And then, you know, it's just one more crisis after another that only the government is big enough to handle. So we need to just cede over all of our resources and all of our power and all of our control and authority over to the government, which is smarter and more capable and more able to handle these problems than we are. So that's the situation we're in. And then you have the Tea Party that rises up in the Republican Party, and all of a sudden we are thinking, you know, we're Americans. We run our own business. We run our own government. Our government works for us. And what happened with that was, as they built momentum, the Republican establishment built their momentum off of that momentum in kind of a parasitic manner and actually sucked all the life out of the Tea Party and subsumed all of their growth and all of their development and all of the momentum that they had developed, subsumed it into themselves. And then once they had completely subsumed all of it, then they said, okay, well, we're just going to kind of continue doing what we were doing, which is slow marching this movement towards total control by a bunch of experts instead of running off the cliff with it like the Democrats have done since they've been completely eaten up by the leftists. So the average American looks at this, and for generations, all they've known is this sort of control by government people who are supposed to be on your side. And ultimately what you end up with is this false dichotomy that either our guys are in control or your guys are in control. And by God, it's not going to be your guys. So I'm going to give all of my time and resources and capabilities to my guys so they can beat your guys in the next election. And my guys beat your guys in the next election and nothing changes because they're all on the same side. It's not left. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
No.
I'm just running off at the mouth
No,
here.
it's good. No, I was just going to say at the same time, while they were, basically feeding off the momentum of the Tea Party, at the same time, you have Mitch McConnell, many of these other folks that were also undermining the Tea Party simultaneously. And we also saw that with Trump, whether you like Trump or not, he was a tour de force when it came to re-energizing the Republican Party. And on the face of things, we see all these career politicians, sort of very tepidly endorsing them or supporting them.
So they
but behind the scenes, they're making deals with Nancy Pelosi and everything else. So we have a very corrupt system when it comes to that. Just real quick, I want to say hi to those that are showing up. Willie, good to see you, man. Alaska, Andy, good to see you. I think this is this first time that we've had Alaska Andy on there.
I remember seeing Alaska.
Alaska, if this is your first time, hey, welcome. We appreciate you coming on here. Wyatt, good to see you. I don't know if I've seen your name on there before. Mr. Riojas, you're a regular. We appreciate.
Señor Riojas, exactamente, no? Perfecto.
I think that's French. Pretty sure that's French.
Polish.
Oh, gotcha. Alaska says, don't trust the voting system. We're going to talk a little bit about that, or at least I am. I completely agree. I think we can kind of talk about that in depth, and I definitely want to, whether we're talking about 2020 or we're talking about today, I think we won. Both of those, yesterday. I think the midterms were overwhelmingly. I think there was a red wave. I do. I just don't think that it's going to show up, and that's something that we got to fix and get serious about. And here's the reality: regardless of what you feel about the voting system, there is no validation involved in our current voting system. So there's no way to prove it one way or the other. And again, just like I said earlier on Twitter, the reality is that voter fraud is easy to pull off, and it's very hard to prove because of the way that it is and because it is so decentralized. That used to be the argument made for why voting fraud isn't effective, is that it's decentralized. Well, again, folks, when you have millions and billions of dollars involved and ideologues involved, that there is nothing more important to them than politics. If you don't think that they can't systematically defraud this very, third world voting system that we currently have, you're a fool. I don't know the way to say it. It's definitely, I believe it happens, and I believe it happens at a scale that we really can't even imagine, to be honest with you. And if you guys haven't seen it, I think it's a great documentary, 2000 Mules. I think that whether that's 100% true or not, I think it definitely occurs pretty regularly. So, and again, we can touch on that a little bit more later.
Yep.
You think, Summer?
I had never thought there was going to be a red wave because I knew they would overcome it with cheating.
Well, there it is, folks. Summer said it. Must be true.
We're done here.
Yep.
So what I would like to do,
know.
because I think some of these issues were some of the state issues here in West Virginia that I'd like to get into. Were also issues being voted on nationwide as well. But there was a couple of major issues that we've been sitting around discussing prior to this podcast. Summer and I have been talking about it all day. But let's talk a little bit about Amendment 2 that got defeated here in West Virginia. And it was shocking to me. This is actually something that I've been wanting to see voted on for a long time. And it's shocking to me that this movement got defeated. And Summer, I think it's a good spot for you.
Well, I don't know all the particulars of Amendment 2, but it was my understanding that it gave the West Virginia legislature the chance to modernize the property tax system, which could translate into less personal property taxes and business inventory taxes for business.
Yes, ma'am.
And then could eventually become less personal property taxes on individual citizens as well.
That's right.
Okay.
So basically, it didn't take away any taxes at all.
Yeah.
Right. It didn't.
Right.
I mean, the simple fact is that the ratification of this amendment would simply allow the legislature to address existing property taxes.
Right.
It didn't actually do away with any of them, but it allowed the legislature to address them, which might potentially involve attempts to abolish certain taxes or to whatever, to restructure property taxes. First of all, property taxes are the most immoral, unethical, and unconstitutional form of
100%.
taxation there is, because it literally involves the government confiscating, although only administratively at first, but literally taking ownership of your property, whether it's your home or your business or your the machinery you use to do your business, or your transportation, your vehicles, whatever. But basically, the government just simply out of nowhere says that's mine, and you agree to it and say, okay, well, I'll pay you rent on my property that I have purchased with the wealth that I have earned or created. And that's what a property tax is. It's completely immoral, and it is absolutely antithetical to the principles of the Constitution.
And you never own anything, folks.
Nope.
At best, you're renting it fairly cheaply from the government, as long as that rate goes up periodically. It never goes lower, right? So you could pass land or property to your kids, and the first time that they can't make that property tax payment, they're seizing that property. That's yours. And it absolutely is. It to me is one of the most unconstitutional things that's ever taken place. And it's just hard for me to believe that there's not a major movement, or at least one state in the union that doesn't have property tax, because I'd move there tomorrow, because that's the only way that you're going to build generational wealth for your family, is if, you can quit paying on something. It's mind blowing to me.
You literally own nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, back to Amendment 2, I mean, for us as small business owners, it could have potentially meant a lot to us, because I know we've mentioned on this podcast many times before, we pay property tax on every bit of inventory we have every single year. Doesn't matter how many years that piece of property has been in inventory. We pay taxes on it every single year. I have to count every staple, every target, every tool that I have to inventory every single year, and we pay taxes on it, machinery, all of that. So not even getting down to, my personal belongings, our cars or vehicles or things like that. As a business owner and a small business owner, the burdens that are on us are immense, and to take that little bit away would have been mighty helpful. I remember the first time I contacted you personally, you were our delegate, and I think I sent you a message like, what's up with this personal property tax on inventory for businesses? Do something, Marshall. He's like, I would love to.
Well, I mean, I actually did propose getting rid of it, and jumped on some other proposals to get rid of it. And the thing is, the business inventory tax in West Virginia, we had not only outside corporations send their people in to testify, but we had local folks who said, look, I want to grow my business. I want to hire more people. I want to produce more. I want to pay more in sales taxes by buying more stuff, but I can't because you won't let me, because you are charging me an inventory tax on all of my raw materials that are sitting on a shelf waiting to be produced, waiting to be used to produce new products, and then I have to pay inventory tax on the products.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, I've already paid a consumption tax when I purchased all of those resources, and I'm going to charge a sales tax, a consumption tax, when I sell them. But meanwhile, while it's sitting there earning no wealth for me or anyone else at all, I'm paying taxes on it.
Yep.
It's insane.
Yeah, and folks, put this in perspective. This is suppressor cover here. If I have this in it hasn't sold in 5 years, if it's sitting on my shelf, I pay taxes on that suppressor cover every single year as an inventory tax, and it's absolutely insane. And I'm sure West Virginia is not the only state that does that, but this is
I don't know of any other, but that doesn't mean anything.
I think there was only like one or two that I knew of.
Yeah, regardless, the point is it's crazy. And West Virginians, if you want to know why this economy isn't growing, it's because you're freaking voting for stupid things like that.
Or even your favorite stores and companies aren't coming into the state. Well, this is why, because they don't want to pay taxes on
businesses don't want to come here. It's
so our situation that started all this discussion is that our legislature actually proposed an amendment to our Constitution that would then allow the legislature to do away with these sorts of taxes. And it just starts with the business inventory tax, and it also includes potentially personal vehicles, that sort of thing, but also going all the way, it opens the door to actually get to the point where you're not paying property tax on your home. You could actually own your home for the first time in generations.
Yeah.
And in West Virginia, and I think probably in
People
most
voted
states,
against it.
in West Virginia, and I think probably most states, what happens is the legislature proposes amendments to the Constitution, and then the voters ratify it. Except that our voters didn't.
I know.
They voted against their own benefit, and they voted to keep themselves into tax slavery to the government and to never own anything. It's stunning to me.
Yep.
Well, and I'll tell you, there's a few things. Number one, that came down to messaging. I don't think people really understood what they were voting for, and even reading it on the ballot, it was super confusing, folks. Again,
they intentionally worded it that way so that
they
you won't vote.
Absolutely. And then you even got our governor, Jim Justice, campaigning against, which he needs to go. Him and
this guy, when this guy was elected, when he took office, he owed the state $4.5 million in taxes.
Yeah.
You think he'd want to do away with some of the taxes,
and
right?
yet he and his first proposal to the legislature when I was a brand new legislator and he was a brand new governor was he wanted to increase the taxes on the people of West Virginia by $450 million. I stood up and I said, hey, we got 1.8 million people in this state, 767,000 of whom actually have jobs, and very few of those are high-paying jobs. Very few. So where's the money going to come from? And by the way, when are you going to pay your taxes?
That'd be 10% of it.
And he called me a few funny names and, never answered the questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
But now he wants us to stay in tax slavery for property taxes and never own our homes, because the only real wealth you ever have is the real property you own.
100%.
Yes, sir.
Yep. That, guns and ammo. That's the real currency.
And then you can take whatever property. No, I didn't
There's
say
a song
that.
named that now.
Yeah.
Lawyers,
Guns and ammo.
Lawyers, guns, and
Great. Now,
lawyers, guns, and money.
now we're gonna get hit with a trademark infringement by YouTube. You had to bring that
Warren
up.
Zevon.
Yeah. Has anyone? I haven't looked in the last hour or two. What's going on with Arizona? Anybody see that?
I don't know. Should I look?
Yeah. See what happened with the governor's race. I'm really curious to see what's going on.
No, wait. I
just
love this
saw a
comment by
headline.
Mr. Walsh.
Let's see. Put it up there. Which one?
Which one?
Down one. Well, that's a continuation of it. They just go to the party they think has their best interest in mind because the TV hanging on the wall told them so.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
That's
it.
if they get off their butts to vote. I think
Yeah.
only like 30% of voters showed up
Yep.
to vote
Yep.
yesterday in West Virginia. I was like, where are you people?
Let me put it this way. My wife mailed out letters to more voters than actually showed up at the polls.
Nice.
In our
Good job,
precinct.
Julie.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But then they want to sit at home and complain when things aren't going their way. It's like, well, what do you think? We have to take our kids to the polls with us. It's like, this is important.
We have them vote twice.
Yeah, we have them vote twice. This is important stuff. This is an important duty as a citizen. Go vote.
Yep.
So anyway.
John Hopin, glad you made it, buddy. You are late. Get down and give me 10 push-ups. Do that. Real House says not even any Californians do that. It was poorly presented. Yeah, we're probably giving California and a couple other states ideas right now. Well, he said it was very hard to understand. I would have had no idea if I hadn't researched it. Absolutely.
Well, the other amendments. I mean, there were 4 amendments on the ballot, and one was to make the State Board of Education accountable to the legislature. And the way that was fought was they bought all this ad space. So, the teachers unions buy up all this ad space, and they say, well, what's going on here is that these people want to take control of your local schools away from you and give it to a bunch of politicians in Charleston. All right, first of all, let's be honest. How much control do you have over your public school right now? 0, right? 0. So how can we take anything away from you if you have none? Secondly, by what method do you control your government? It's through the legislature, through your elected representatives, right? You hire these people, you can fire them, you can hold them accountable. Most people don't or won't, but anyway, the thing is that's how this system is supposed to work. That we, the people, are the sovereign entity. We speak to the government through our elected employees in the legislature. The executive, are you ready for this? The executive executes. In other words, does what it's told by the legislature. That's what's supposed to happen. But instead, what we have here is a 4th completely unaccountable branch of government that does whatever it wants, gets funded by the public dole, and yet is not accountable for any of it. So the proposal was to actually make the Board of Education report to the state legislature, in other words, to you, the people, through your elected representatives, And we voted that down. We said, no, we don't want to have any control
Which
over our
is-
state board of education.
I can't believe that they aren't already accountable.
They're not.
That's crazy to me.
As a matter of fact, during the teacher strikes, when I was in office, I literally had teachers and representatives of the teachers union walk into my office and said, "What is your problem? Why are you doing this?" And I said, "What am I doing this?" "Well, you're asking all these questions." I said, "Well, because that's my job. I am accountable to the people of my district, and they own you. They fund you. They own your system. They own me because I work for them because they hired me. We, as the government, belong to the people, and we owe them answers." And their response was literally, "It's none of your business." I said, "I want to know what you're doing with the money. I want to know how you make decisions on policy, on curricula, on all this other stuff. And I want to know, what you're doing." And they said, "It's none of your business."
Oh, I had a teacher get pretty frustrated, and I think she tried to hide it, but possibly a little upset when I told her that I could look up how much she made each year. It's like, I pay your salary. Like, why can't I look up? That should be public knowledge. I can look up exactly how much you make each year.
Well,
She's like, you can see everybody's salary?
Yeah,
Like,
but they don't.
yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. West Virginia teachers don't make anything worth what they should make.
Sure.
No.
But
Well,
the
this
thing
one
is,
made a pretty good salary.
well, the system is the real problem here. It's the administration. And, the way that I see it is that parents should raise their kids. School teachers should maintain control, order and discipline in their classroom, and they should teach their academic topic. And then local administrators should run the schools, who are accountable to the local school board, the county school board, who are accountable to the people of the county who elected them. And that includes the teachers, the administrators, the parents, the taxpayers, everyone there in that county. But instead, what we have is this closed system where the state board of education owns the county board of education, who has to just replicate whatever it is that they tell them to do. And you have no say so over it. You have no input. You don't elect the members of the state board of education. They're appointed every 9 years by the governor. You have no input into that system at all. It's closed. And yet, when we had the opportunity to ratify an amendment that would make the state board of education accountable to the people through their legislature, we voted it down. Amazing.
Yeah. And that's the real problem, is we've gotten rid of accountability all up and down the line of, I mean, just about everything from the individual teachers to individual politicians or anything else. Nobody is held accountable for anything unless you're a Republican. There's no doubt about that. And, again, not to look, we love teachers, obviously, and 100%, but at the same time, there should be some merit-based, they should have to post the results of each classroom. Like, hey, is this teacher doing a good job? Is there some sort of performance standards for the teachers themselves? Again, it comes down to accountability and a meritocracy where, hey, look, I'm all about a teacher making twice what they're making right now if they can show that they are showing some sort of performance inside the classroom and seeing results.
But this is a critical component of it. You can't hold people accountable for things they can't control.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I've talked to hundreds of teachers. Mm-hmm. If they have somebody who's a punk like I was in school, who runs his mouth nonstop, tells jokes, interrupts the class, and actually literally makes fun of the teacher, my teachers were able to say, "Wilson, get out. We don't want you here." Teachers today can't do that. They are not allowed to maintain order and discipline in their rooms.
Well, that goes back to accountability of the students.
Yes,
again, if you have somebody that's disrupting, we got to move them to another class, and that's what that's for. And again, really, it could come down to a lot of what we're facing in America is just a lack of accountability.
But those changes aren't going to take place until the state board of education is accountable to the people through their legislature, and we just lost the opportunity to do that.
And I think this kind of leads to both of these amendments that we've discussed. I think there's a lack of messaging, proper messaging, or the way it was spun in the media or in the messaging by one side played a big part.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one of the challenges for any messaging is that it's easy to fearmonger. It's hard to praise the benefits of something, right? It's hard to highlight the benefits. Fearmongering is always going to be more effective than, bringing something down is always going to be more effective than promoting something. It's just the reality.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Yep. But in addition to that, what you've got is the people who are in control of the messaging don't want us to be in control of anything.
Yeah.
Right. So they're centralizing control of everything. And so they're providing messaging that specifically tells us that what we need, what we have a right to, what is ours, is not something we really want. So you don't want to have the Board of Education report to you through your legislature, just like every other department, every other office of the executive branch has to do.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one, except for the Board of Education. You don't want that because that's bad for your student. But nobody can tell me why it's bad for my student to actually know what's going on inside the education system.
Sure.
Yep.
Real Haas says, why wasn't this podcast not done before?
Good point.
Well, we only have so much time.
Well, actually, I posted a live video on my Facebook where I broke down all 4 of the amendments and explained why I supported each of them. And I think we got a couple of thousand views. I wish I had a broader platform.
Let's do what we can with what we have here, and again, what we have in the future. Make sure you throw up what's all the socials and everything to follow you, Marshall.
Well, on Facebook, it's S Marshall Wilson 3.
Yeah,
you got me on there, don't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll just type it up.
Okay.
And then
Thank you. And then at S Marshall Wilson on Twitter. I don't do a whole bunch of original tweets currently, generally responding to discussions and stuff like that. But
you said S Marshall Wilson 3?
I think
just shows up. Or is
Yeah,
that
I think
a
it's
different one.
Clarify that that's Twitter, but
yeah.
That's
okay.
okay.
Yeah, just so.
And then this
again,
one
for people.
is Smarshall
Marshall
Wilson.3.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yes, ma'am.
Make sure you guys go follow him there. And again, he's definitely somebody that I want to have on here more often for sure.
I'd be honored.
And again, he's a great resource.
I'll have to look at that. Marshall.
Luke Michael. In the meantime, parents will always be the greatest advocates for their children. They need to be the squeaky wheel. Absolutely. Go over it here. Well, we have for sure, and what we'll start doing is maybe once a month, once every 2 months, whatever time that Marshall has. Have you ever used a keyboard before?
Hey, can I go back to what Luke Michael said?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
He's a teacher.
that's great, and what he's saying there is absolutely true. But it's actually, that's a microcosm of the whole world. What needs to happen is that we, the people, need to hold all of these people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you go to McDonald's and you order something and they give it to you and it's, there's no meat patty on your hamburger, you go back and say, hey, this is a nothing burger, right? Or if you're Jim Jett, never mind. So the thing is, we have to take accountability. I was going to ask you a while ago, you're a military leader. I was a military leader. Julie was a military leader. One of the basic principles when I taught ROTC at LSU and my cadets would say stupid things like, well, rank does have its privileges. I'd say rank has nothing but responsibility. There are no privileges. And the fact is that being in charge means one thing and one thing only. It's all your fault. Who is in charge in America? Who is the sovereign? Who holds all the power? We the people. We the people. In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. In other words, we, the people, establish the Constitution, which then established the United States of America. We own this place. We are in charge. Anything that's wrong here is our fault. That's it. Bottom line. And we need to do our job and hold these people accountable and make sure that things get straightened out. I'm sorry, I started preaching again.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yep.
What were some other things that were kind of areas that you want to highlight in this last election, Marshall?
Are we talking state or federal?
Wherever you want to go.
Well, I mean, there were 2 other amendments that got defeated. One of them, it's a no. I don't even understand why. West Virginia, I believe, is the only state in the union that doesn't allow religious organizations to incorporate.
Really?
Yes. And we had a proposed amendment. All we had to do was ratify it that would allow religious organizations to incorporate. Now, I'm not saying religious organizations should incorporate. Maybe some should, maybe some shouldn't. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is you're not allowed to. That's
so what could possibly be the benefit of that? That's one that I wasn't even aware that was on there, and then when I was kind of blindsided by that, and I wasn't sure what that meant, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, it actually comes from before the Civil War, the War of Northern Aggression, or the Southern War of Liberation, or however you want to look at it. But West Virginia, I don't know. Some people might not know this. West Virginia used to be part of Virginia, and that was a law that was passed in Virginia. We separated. We became West Virginia. It came over onto our books. Virginia got rid of the law. They abolished that law, and we just kind of kept it. And nobody can tell me what it means or why. But there is actually a prohibition in well, it wasn't a law. It was prohibition in the Constitution against religious organizations incorporating. I mean, I can imagine a few reasons, but I haven't been able to find a historical reason for it, an explanation for why.
So what would be the benefit of them incorporating?
Well, I mean, basically just having more control over their organization and their assets.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
That's as far as I can tell. So what was the fourth one? There was the Board of Education, there was the property tax, there was the church incorporation. Oh my God. All right. So a few years ago, when I was in the legislature, we actually impeached here in West Virginia. We impeached our entire West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals, the entire thing, all of our justices. We impeached every one of them. Our Chief Justice went to federal prison. He was arrested by the FBI and went bye-bye. And then we had another justice step up and become the acting Chief Justice. Well, she had used taxpayer money to decorate her office to the tune of more than the cost of the average house in West Virginia. So the thing is, once again, the Supreme Court gave us the same answer that the Board of Education gave me when I asked, what are you doing with their money, with our taxpayers' money? They said, it's none of your business. We're the Supreme Court. You can't, we don't have to tell you what we're doing. Literally. And so we impeached. Well, actually, we didn't get around to impeaching the Chief Justice because by the time we started the impeachment procedure, he was on his way to federal prison. So we had another justice drop out while we were impeaching him. He just quit, so we didn't finish the impeachment. Had three left. One stepped up and said, well, I'm now the acting Chief Justice. Well, in West Virginia, the Chief Justice presides over the Senate trial of any impeachment. So you guys probably know this, but the House, the lower body, impeaches, and then the upper body, the Senate, tries the impeachment. Mm-hmm. The Chief Justice presides over it. So we have an acting Chief Justice presiding over the trial of her impeachment in the Senate.
How did that work out?
Well,
she wasn't forced to recuse
She had to recuse herself, yeah. And she appointed a lower judge who sort of reported to her to be the acting Chief Justice, who then stepped up and said, nah, y'all can't impeach her. This is messed up. I don't like it. And the Senate went, the Chief Justice says we can't do this. And we were done. It was over. And I went over and I saw the Senate president and I said, hey, you know what just happened is you all just made yourselves impeachable. You now meet the requirements in the West Virginia Constitution for maladministration, which is an impeachable offense. And that was it. That was the end of it. So this particular amendment to the West Virginia Constitution would have blocked the judiciary from interfering in impeachment specifically to prevent them from saying that they couldn't be impeached. And the people of this state refused to ratify that amendment. So we can't hold our judiciary accouable.
They can just say,
they can just say, nah, we got this. Y'all get lost. We don't work for you. It blows my mind that we didn't ratify that amendment.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, and trigger warning there brings up another great point. He's talking about scary to think YouTube targets kids to view videos with men claiming to be pregnant and pull other nonsense. Absolutely. That's another issue that goes back to schools. All of this stuff is being pushed at a high level. And again, we're just here. We're probably, 45 minutes to an hour away from Loudoun County, where we've kind of seen a lot of this take place. I drive through that area almost every day on my way to work. We're allowing it to happen. There's not enough parents going up there and saying enough of this. And it took absolute insanity to take place before parents started getting involved in Loudoun County. But it's
Well, and
happening
then that's
everywhere.
all calmed down because they've been painted as terrorists and everybody's scared. So they've essentially seems like they've given up.
I think some things are happening there behind the scenes, but you're not exactly wrong about that.
I never am.
Yeah, that's
I'm always exactly right.
Yeah.
But the appropriate response is yes, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly.
On camera.
On the camera.
I don't want my wife to see murdering me on camera.
Not on camera anyway.
No.
Exactly.
I'll wait.
Yeah. So we kind of see what's going on. We saw what happened here in this election. Marshall, what do you think? What's the answer?
There's only one answer. I mean, we the people are in charge. We the people need to learn how the system's supposed to work. When I was first elected and I went to Charleston and I started, now I want you to understand, I teach Constitution on a college level, U.S. government, U.S. Constitution. I go all the way back to Aristotle, bring it all the way through Western civilization, reach the point, the pinnacle of Western civilization was the moment that the United States abolished slavery, because the Constitution established the standard for the right government, for correct governance of men. And then we still didn't reach the ideal because we still had slaves. All men are created equal, but we have slaves. Well, that had to be rectified. Once that was rectified, that was the pinnacle of Western civilization, and we have been in decline ever since. So when I say that we have to reestablish constitutional governance, we have to restore the republic by reestablishing constitutional governance to secure the blessings of liberty to our kids by securing the natural rights with which we are endowed by our Creator, not by the government, not by any group of men, not by any fiat of any legislature, but by our Creator. We are endowed with the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. They're just powers. And they have a lot of other powers. So what we have to do is we have to reestablish constitutional governance. I have a lot of friends who think it's well past that time. I'm not ready to give up. I've got 9 kids. Not real sure how that happened, but I have 9 kids, and I'll
give you I'll break that down. I'll give you a college level class on how that takes place.
The only reason I even exist is to secure those rights to my kids. And of course, we talk about liberty all the time. Liberty is the free exercise, the opportunity to freely exercise your natural rights. That's what liberty is. And my grandkids are not going to have the opportunity to look me in the eye and say, "Why are we slaves when you were free?" That's not going to happen. Because one of 2 things is going to happen. They're going to be free or I'm going to be dead. So the bottom line is we, the people, have to engage. We have to learn. We have to study. We have to actually know what the Constitution says, what the principles are that it was founded on, what we believe and why. And then we have to engage and engage and engage, because these people who want to make cattle of your children will never, ever, 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 ever stop. So you can't stop either. It's really that simple. Look, I'd rather go fishing. I'd rather sit around reading books, maybe even write a book every now and then. Whatever it is you like to do. I would prefer that too. We don't have that option. So we were talking earlier about the elements of power, right? And how you make war. And of course, the average American thinks that you're only at war when there are a bunch of people wearing the same color suits that are shooting at each other, right? Or 2 teams that wearing different color suits and they're all shooting at each other. That's not the only way you can make war. You make war. War is the use of the elements of power to compel another group of people to behave the way you want them to. That's what war is. Okay? So if we use diplomacy, which is just international politics, or domestic politics, if you use the elements of domestic politics to compel other people to behave the way you want to, you have made war against them. If you use economics, if you destroy their ability to make a living, if you destroy their ability to own property, you are making war against them. We have got to reverse this process. And the only way to do it without it turning into a shooting match is for us to engage now. to engage electorally, to engage legislatively, to engage legally. In other words, to go to court, to sue people. And when you can't get, relief there, you have to engage at the level of changing the legislation. And listen, if you can't find a politician who will actually stand up and do the job that they've sworn to do, that you've hired them to do, you need to recruit another one. You need to train them how to win. You need to figure out how to win. And there are people who can help you out with that. There are classes you can take. I can make some recommendations later if somebody wants to. But anyway, you have got to recruit people who will stand up for the principles of the Constitution, will hold office, and will actually do that job. And you know what? If you can't find one, you need to become one. I didn't get into this because I like politics. I got into it because I was whining about what was happening in the state. And my wife told me, well, do something about it. And that's why we're here. That's why I've held office twice. It's why I'm still engaged, because I got kids and I'm not going to whine unless I do something about it. And look, I want to be clear about this. I understand a lot of you guys are doing things other than just whining. But the thing is, you've got to engage electorally. And if that means recruiting your own candidates, if it means giving up your money to ensure that the right candidate wins, the founders, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, if you read the final paragraph down there, they pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor to secure the blessings of liberty to their children. We can do no less. I'm sorry, did I go off on another rampage?
No, that was good.
Start preaching again?
No, that's what I brought you here for, to preach. Yeah, so there's a lot of topics that I would definitely like to cover. One of the topics I'm going to get Marshall in here on, and we're going to talk specifically about the Second Amendment, the intent of the Second Amendment. This is something, a small course I've taught to families that are interested in firearms and kind of making a case, but I'd like to give that material to Marshall, to him look it over, as well as kind of add his own part of that. And I'm sure he has lots to say on that. I know we've had many private discussions on the Second Amendment, and I think we're pretty much in lockstep when it comes to how we feel about that. But that is definitely, it goes back to what voting is a sacred right, and one vote everybody's vote can change the direction of a nation. I think that's much more powerful and much more sacred than a firearm, in my opinion, and ultimately more influential. And number one, to vote, let's put it this way, to get a gun or to vote, you can't be a felon, right? But yet we have, onerous background checks on firearms. We have, you have to show an ID. I think the same standard should apply to voting, in my opinion. We have to figure out a way to validate and secure the integrity of our voting system, because I don't think there's anybody out there, regardless of what they say, that really believes in the integrity of it. And they're trying, there's a reason why there is a concerted effort and a systematic effort to take away any sort of validation whatsoever when it comes to voting. There's one reason, and it's they plan to cheat. So we're going to continue to see that, and I would like to see some
plan. They already do.
They are. No, I'm just saying it's because they want to make it easier and easier. And then if you bring up these very valid points, of course, you're called all kinds of names, and you're censored and all these other things, which again,
I'm a pretty sensitive guy, so it really hurts my feelings.
It does. I know. Yeah. But to me,
you look traumatized.
when they start gaslighting that issue or they start censoring you, to me, it's just, it's confirmation, man. It's confirmation. They know that if people really start talking about that, the gig is up, and they start really looking into that. So, for those of you that feel like there's a major issue with voter integrity, you're not alone. There's millions of Americans out there, more than, and even on the left, they're just happy as long as they win. So
can I jump in on a parallel
Absolutely.
topic? Okay, earlier one of your guys here said something about that it was actually the parties against us. I'm not sure that I caught it, but anyway, if you go back and you read George Washington's farewell address, I mean, this guy, I almost think he was a prophet sometimes. But anyway, he said that that in his farewell address, he said that if we allow parties to become permanent, and I'm not quoting him, but this is basically the idea here. We allow parties to become permanent, that they would insinuate themselves between the people and the government that the people own. Wow. That's happened, hasn't it? So now the parties run the election process. And do you really think they run it for your benefit? Do you really think that the parties run the election process so that you can maintain more control of your government? No, they have completely insinuated themselves between you and the government that you control. Why? Why? It's because they're building their own kingdoms. And I will guarantee you, because I've been in on the conversations, that it is not right versus left. It's not red versus blue. It's not Republicans versus Democrats. It is the oligarchs versus you. They're all on the same team. All right. They will establish this party system from their perspective is what it's all about. The government is just the backdrop. That's just the levers and that's the plumbing. But what really is that it's all about is them building their own little kingdoms using this party system. And what they do is they set up this dichotomy and they say, oh, look what those bad guys over there are doing. You have to give us this control so that we can then stop those bad guys over there. And they have no interest in stopping the bad guys because they are the bad guys.
It's good cop versus bad cop. That's, that's the game that they're playing. And, it goes even back to COVID, folks. As you had all these, look who was in power. The Republican Party was in power as they're shutting down all these businesses without stepping in the way that they could have if they really cared. They're shutting down all these small businesses left and right. They're making people completely dependent on the government while they're empowering all these major corporations. I mean, again, Republicans could have done a lot more. And don't get me wrong, I do think there are some honest, constitutionally conservative Republicans out there that are running for major office that are doing good things, but just like Marshall said, they're outnumbered 10-1, and they get to a point, and I think even some of these folks, they definitely get to a point where they start off with these good intentions and things like that, but at some point, they do corrupt, which goes back to something you and I have talked about, and that is, term limits. We've got to that's one of the biggest problems that goes back to the lack of accountability, is that there's no term limits. So you have career politicians that are going to do anything they can to stay in power and enrich themselves while pretending, because that's how they stay in power. They're going to pretend they're helping you, whatever side they're on. So, that is really one of the major sources of
Do you have any idea how hard it is for a new outsider to take on an established incumbent who's with a major party?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so obvious that this is a problem that when you mention it to people, they laugh and say, well, that guy didn't even have a choice. Doesn't have a chance. Why is he even running?
Yeah.
Why? Why do we accept that? Why is that okay?
Yeah. Well, and even when you get these supposed outsiders, and some of them are, but they go into it with the establishment thinking that they're going to play ball, and then they get in there. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is a good example of that, where nobody likes her, and the Republican Party throws her under the bus regularly. We say we want these disruptors, but then when we get them, everybody piles on. So, anyways,
not only that, but I can guarantee you from having been on the inside of it, that when you have someone who is not a member of the party yet upholds the principles that the party claims to uphold, and that the grassroots, that the actual members of the party, the real normal people out there paying taxes and voting for these people, that they actually believe in, someone who stands up for that.
Yeah.
But they're not a member of the party. I personally have experienced this, having left the Republican Party and joined a local Constitution party here in West Virginia called ACT, Americans Coming Together. I have literally had sitting Republican legislators tell me, I hope you beat the Republican you're running against in this race. And I say, great. Make a public statement about that. It'll help a lot. And they say, oh, no. I can't go against the party.
Right.
You and I share principles. I'm on your side. I believe in what you're doing. I just can't tell anybody that because the party will punish me.
Well, you and I have had those conversations too, where again, originally as a state legislator, you were Republican, right?
Yes.
And so talk a little bit about that, about
I was elected
you
twice.
pushing the issues that you did, and the pushback that you got from that?
I was elected
If
twice.
you're comfortable
as a
doing it.
No, I have no shame. Nothing embarrasses me. I was elected twice as a Republican, 2016, reelected in 2018. Now, the funny thing is in 2017, well, actually it was 2018, I made a motion to vacate the chair, which means to fire the Speaker of the House. And, I had a very good argument for it. He wasn't upholding the Constitution. He wasn't even completing his oath as a delegate, much less as the Speaker of the House. And not only that, but he was using his power to compel other people to represent him rather than the people who elected them. And I consider that unconstitutional, unethical. So I went to him and tried to speak with him about it. And his his response was, "I will fight you." And I said, "Well, let's step outside." And he said, "Are you insane?" I said, "You just said that you wanted to fight me." He says, "No, I mean, I will fight you in the House." I said, I thought you, okay. All right.
I thought we were going to duel.
20 years in the infantry. I just don't know any better. You have to forgive me. But, so I had no option left, and I made the motion to vacate the chair. And of course he had the motion quashed, but then 3 days later, he decided that he was not even going to run for reelection. So, the thing is that I made some people unhappy. The Republican Party drafted a guy to run against me in the primary. Well, first of all, in my first primary, I actually beat the chairman of my county's Republican Executive Committee, which really made a lot of people unhappy, made them sad, because this guy who had no name recognition, had never held any office in the Republican Party, and now just walks up and says, "Hey guys, I'm going to uphold the Constitution if you hire me." And then they did. It really made a lot of people sad in the Republican establishment. So, they were already mad at me. I tried to remove the Speaker of the House. He decides he's not even going to run for reelection. And so they draft someone to run against me in my reelection in 2018, and I won again because the people of my district want constitutional governance. And then halfway through that, I was in 2019. I had spoken against the, Republican governor. The guy was elected as a Democrat.
He changes it quite a bit, doesn't he?
The guy was elected as a Democrat. And then when the West Virginia, the Republican-led West Virginia legislature actually brought him, for the first time in the history of the state, a balanced budget that didn't raise taxes by 1 penny, he literally called a press conference, which made national news. You can look it up. You just look up Jim Justice, Bull, you know what, and you'll find photos of this. But anyway, he actually had, he went through this big speech, and if you've ever heard a Jim Justice speech, it is something to behold. It
Special.
really is. But he ends it by saying that our budget wasn't a nothing burger, and he had somebody hold up 2 pieces of hamburger bun that didn't have anything on them. It wasn't a whatever, and he had them demonstrate something else, and then he says what it was, and he pulls this silver dome off of this tray, and sitting on it is a printed version of our budget, which met all of the requirements of the government, didn't raise taxes by a penny. And sitting on top of it was a fresh steaming pile of manure. This is the governor of West Virginia. He's a child. But anyway, I called them out for that. I said, this is silly. You shouldn't act this way. Then he decided he was a Republican, and he had a big press conference for that. And one of my fellow delegates, who was also a Republican, said, "Hey, thank you for coming to the Republican Party. We welcome you heartily. Will you uphold the West Virginia Republican Party platform?" And his response was, and I quote, "Well, I ain't read it yet." I'm not sure how valid his conversion was, since he didn't even know what Republicans believe or what they were trying to accomplish, but he's a Republican now, right? So I said, "Well, actually, I can help you with that." And I picked up my phone, and I had the West Virginia Republican Party's platform. And I said, "Item number 1, lower the gasoline tax." What was ironic about this is just a few weeks earlier, he had stomped around on the legislature floor until the Republican-led legislature knuckled under and raised the gasoline tax because he demanded it. And number 1 item on the Republican Party platform is lower the gasoline tax. So it was things like this that made people unhappy with me.
Yeah.
And then when Justice announced that he was running for re-election as a Republican, and he wrote checks to all of the elected Republicans to their campaign committees. And I sent my check back to him with a letter explaining why I couldn't take money from a person like him.
Has he ever paid his taxes yet?
Not as far as I know. So that upset some people. And then when I said when the chair of the West Virginia Republican Party, Melody Potter, endorsed Justice as the candidate for the West Virginia Republican Party for governor before the primary. She said, yeah, there are 6 other candidates, but forget them. This is our guy. He's our candidate, no matter what anybody else thinks. That's completely immoral and completely unethical. So I called her on it, and then she called me into her office and yelled at me for 10 minutes and told me I was a bad Christian, that I was an embarrassment of a representative for the people of my district, and that they didn't want me anymore. And I said, what do you mean you don't want me? She says, we don't want you. Get out. I said, get out of your office? She said, get out. I said, oh, get out of the party. I understand now. And she said, all you ever do is rant about the Constitution. I said, yes, ma'am, I do. So I will take my rant somewhere else. This is why I'm no longer a Republican.
Well, let me ask you, bring it back to a more national topic of politics. Yes. Let's say we do kind of crystallize the Republican Party. We get back under at least a somewhat of a constitutional tent, and everybody's agrees to that. We wave a wand tomorrow. Part of politics is that, or at least the idea of part of politics is that you got to have diplomacy between two parties to get things done. How do you feel? Is there a way to reconcile even the current Republican Party with the direction that the Democrats want to take this country?
No. As a matter of fact, both parties need to be completely dismantled. We will not have liberty. We will not have constitutional governance in this country as long as we have two parties who hold so much power. Oh. What has to happen is the people of this country have to coalesce on the principles that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator, that they're endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Until we as the people come together on those principles and tell everyone else to kind of, get lost, there will be no liberty in this country, because that is liberty. That is America. What I just quoted. That is the central founding principle of America, and America does not exist as a body. As an idea, yes, but as a body, it no longer exists.
Yeah. Let's see. We missed any. Let's go back up. Go back
Pesky up. Constitution.
Trigger warning there. Let's throw that one. Actually, we'll see.
One?
Throw up John Hope in there. Yeah. Someone will miss. Republican Party needs new leadership. There's no silver lining in this last election, but reform needs to happen now. We completely agree on that, John. Trump is hard to trust for a few reasons, like running to mess with Buchanan and being a Democrat most of his life. Yeah. Look, Trump has some issues. There's no doubt about it. Me personally, I'd rather have Trump than Biden. We'll just say that. At the end of the day,
I feel like if Trump said he was going to do something, he did it.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was just morals and principles, or I think it was more just a pride thing of, hey, I said I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show you I'm going to do it. But at least he said he was going to do something, you kind of could count on him to do it.
Look, I think if you just base it completely off of the merits of his presidency, he was able to accomplish a lot in a positive way for this nation. There again, there's definitely some shortcomings there. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. I personally believe that Trump did evolve a lot from 10 years ago to where he is today politically. I do think that I think he definitely turned more conservative. Who knows how real that was, but right now I think we would have, if we had a presidential candidate, I think our presidential candidate would either be Trump or obviously Rick DeSantis. I think DeSantis would be a better nominee. But here's the thing, folks. For those of us that think that we need to get rid of Trump because all of his shortcomings and that the media has turned him into a monster, they're going to do the same thing to any Republican nominee. They're already doing that to DeSantis. By the time they get done with DeSantis, most people out there that started off liking Trump but thought he was had just too much drama to keep in office, they're going to feel the same way about DeSantis. We've allowed the media to manipulate our thoughts about any single candidate, and that's going to continue to happen. They're going to trash him. What?
If only hammer wielding MAGA nudists had turned out to vote. Wonder why they didn't.
Exactly.
This is true. The media loved Trump until he ran for president.
100%.
That's very true.
Well,
He wasn't racist until he became president either.
Since he left, well, they loved him because they didn't think he was a viable candidate. Once they saw that he was a real candidate, they went on a nonstop 24/7, 365 Trump bashing spree. And I'll tell you what, they love him again because they miss him. I mean, these networks are going bankrupt ever since Trump is gone. They don't have anything to talk about. So that's another interesting element of it. Yeah.
Trigger warning is clarifying. I made a pro-Trump mark before that one. His instincts are good.
Yeah, no, his instincts are good. No, 100%. There's plenty to critique there. There's no doubt about that. But there's plenty to critique about a lot of people, and I think he definitely brought a lot of energy to the. In summer, I'll tell you, I was the most anti-Trump guy prior to the election, up until after the primary. Once the primary hit, I got on board, but I was like, this guy's a joke. This is a whole, this is nothing but a scheme for attention. I didn't think he was a real candidate.
What Mark said here is absolutely true. Anyone with an R will be dragged for 4 years of investigations and trials.
Yeah.
Like that's their standard operating procedure now.
Yep. Absolutely. It will be a constant investigations and they have definitely that's a good thing to talk about too, Marshall. What do you think about the weaponization of our DOD and many other organizations?
3-letter agencies.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do I think about it? It's horrible. It's bad. I don't like it.
I was expecting you to endorse that.
Yeah,
that's how it should happen.
No, I think that's really bad, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
I wish they would stop doing it. Frankly, I think that we need an executive.
I like how your lip quivered as you said that.
I'm a very sensitive guy. I hate the fact that I have to keep reminding you of that. So I believe that part of the chief executive's job, the chief executive takes an oath to uphold the Constitution and to ensure that the laws of the land are followed.
Yeah, sure.
He therefore has the right, the authority, and the power to dismantle these agencies.
Sure.
To audit them for operations, for personnel, for budget, for intent, for all of those things. Just like you or I would with a unit that wasn't going right. You walk in, you take over this unit, and you're like, "In the world is going on here?"
Yeah.
And he has the authority to do it. We just can't find a chief executive who has the knowledge, the leadership capabilities, and the courage to do it, because it's going to take some courage. I mean,
because they don't just sit there and be dismantled; they fight back,
right,
and we're seeing that.
And I think that was a big part of the problem with Trump's administration is that he thought he was going to come in as the CEO of the government,
100%,
and tell people what
he did
to
not
do.
know the operational environment.
That's it exactly. He didn't understand what he was dealing with.
Yeah,
and what we need is someone who has his courage, someone who has his vision for making the government leave you alone, but who actually understands how it all works and has enough wisdom to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah, he didn't expect people that are part of intelligence agencies listening in on phone calls with, other world leaders to go run to the press immediately and tell them, what supposedly was said and why it's so, and not only say what someone said, but then explain to them or can try to convince people why this is such a,
as everybody else who's ever held, I held a TSSCI, right? Anyone who's ever worked in a a secure facility, anyone's ever held a security clearance, you're sitting here and you're watching Vindman do his thing and going, what?
Yeah.
What?
Why is this
How?
guy not on trial?
Yeah.
Why is he not?
Yeah.
Why is he not being court-martialed right now?
Yeah.
Why is he not in an orange jumpsuit? Yeah, it's shocking how protected these folks are, and just the ultimate double standard. And like you said, we can bitch about it all day, but ultimately, we got to figure out a solution. And and again, just like Marshall said, it comes down to us speaking up more, not being intimidated, and making sure that we're doing what we can. And the challenge with that, I know for us, is figuring out what that is. What is the most effective next steps that we can take? And that's something that is hard to figure out, quite frankly.
One of the decisive points in my my journey toward becoming a politician, God help me, and God help the captain back there, was I read this very short book by this wild man named Kurt Schlichter. You ever heard of him? Yeah, of course.
I actually have talked to him many times on personal messages on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, that's where I first became aware of Kurt Schlichter, and I started reading his articles. And I was in the jungle with our adopted kids before we were allowed to bring them to the United States. And I was on Twitter because I was bored, and didn't have anything else to do. And I ran into this guy named Schlichter and some of his buddies, and I thought, these guys are wild.
Uh-huh.
But I actually ended up buying his book, and God, I wasn't planning on bringing it up tonight, or I would have made sure I knew I remembered the name of it. But anyway, basically it makes the argument that what we need now is people running for dog catcher.
Yeah.
So that we can then have people run for state legislature, for governor, for U.S. Congress, on up the line. But we have got to build a bench.
Yeah.
And it's got to be people who are tried and true, who are committed to these principles, who, as I often say in my campaigns, I'll take a bullet to the face to secure your individual natural rights. Because if you're not free, my kids aren't either, and that's all that matters to me. But, Schlichter kind of hit me between the eyes with that, because, I had actually considered maybe running for Congress. And so I sent him a private message. I said, hey, what do you think about this? He said, you're not ready to run for Congress. Have you thought about running for something lower? I said, like dog catcher? And he says, if that's what it takes, you got a problem with that? And I said, I do not. So, but anyway, it kind of was the impetus for the statements I made a while ago about how great, how we need
I
to.
know you made a big time in spammers.
We bring the best advertisers to our channel.
Yeah. So we need to recruit people to run, and we need to train them up, and we need to support them, and we need to make sure they win.
Yeah, and that's a great point too. The fact that we also have to have the long game in mind, because that's what the left has done. And again, right now I'm separating the left from Democrats, right? So there's been definitely a plan in place, a strategy in place for a long time. It started off, infiltrating schools, infiltrating universities, teaching these generations of this just really communist and socialist ideology, and instilling it in these folks and making them believe this stuff and convincing them. And that's just been regurgitated. These ideas that would never even be tolerated at one point, that just on the face of them is so stupid, are now just generally accepted. So
they have a strategic vision.
Yep.
They have strategic
intent. That started
intent.
50 years ago or plus.
Once again, going back to 1887, they have a strategic vision. They have a strategic intent. They have a strategic plan. They have strategic goals, and they broke it all the way down to tactical goals. And all that we've got is people who respond to their tactical activities.
Yeah.
And poorly at that.
Yep. That's absolutely true.
What was that address? John Walsh is asking for an address.
I think.
I gotcha.
He's making a joke. Right. Or maybe he really wants the address. I don't know.
Yeah, there's plenty of websites out there.
Sorry, John.
It's probably not the best one. Probably
not.
You can Google that. Let's see. Real says, get rid of union protection for many of the government agencies and ensure the president has ultimate hire and fire authority. That is absolutely true. Unions in general, man, I have nothing but.
That's a whole nother podcast.
I have nothing but contempt for most unions. That's just a fact. I'm trying to pretty much make everyone my enemy tonight. I'm going to go down a list and just hit everybody to where there's like 4 people left that agree with me. But guess what? I'll take you to war with me. What else you got, Summer? Marshall?
I'm tired.
See, we wore him out.
All right, folks, we're gonna do this more regularly with Marshall. I like to have these political discussions. Again, the next one we'll have a whole section on nothing but Second Amendment issues. I would like to talk to him at depth about that, and I think I'm going to try to get Marshall to start his own channel and talk about some of these things pretty regularly. We'll have to pick his brain about that. I think that'd be good. Do 20, 30-minute sections on this. I think that's something that would grow, and that'd be a great way to get the word out on a lot of these things.
Here, real quick, let's show this. Proud of Opequan. Am I saying that right?
Opequan.
There you go.
Opequan.
I'm not from the area, guys. Don't
She's a
hate.
carpetbagger from
Don't
Georgia.
hate. Elementary school today, they celebrated the veterans today and welcomed many in to visit the kids. That's nice.
Hey, Julie, who's sitting over there, my wife is a retired Navy captain, and she was out doing a speech at the Eastern Panhandle Preparatory Academy,
nice.
which is the brand new charter school between Inwood and Charlestown. And she did a presentation today, and I think it went very well.
Nice.
I mean, I wasn't there, but based on her report, it went well.
We have one question real quick. Wyatt wants to know, truly apologies to go off topic, but what board guide did you recommend?
The Lucas board guide. Shoot us an email, Wyatt. I'll let you know. Hold on, I got one right over here real quick, but I'll
The real question is, since all Marines share a birthday, do they have to share the pack of crayons that they just...
They each get one crayon to chew on, and then they have to pass it around.
I'm honored, Mr. Rojas, and when I'm actually speaking Spanish long term, my accent kind of shifts. I spent a few years living in Peru, and maybe we get together sometime, and you could correct my accent for me.
So this is the Lucas board guides. These are custom built to the action and as well as the rod that you're using. I think on my cleaning video, I talk a little bit more about that. If you want to email services@ParamountTactical.com, and we can talk more about that. I'll give you the address. This is not something we don't really sell them. We usually put them together in rifle packages and things like that, but we'll help you order one because it is a little complicated. While we're here, do we have any other questions on any other topics, gun related, any videos we've recently done or in the past? Let's see. Do you guys have any opinion on the right-leaning voters don't turn up in numbers?
I think they do. They are just outweighed by the fraudulent votes
Well,
on the left.
I agree with that, but I also want to tell you, I was out knocking a lot of doors over the past few months trying to get elected again as a delegate, and I can't tell you how many people just looked me dead in the eye and said it's not worth it. There's no reason for me to go to the polls. It's a waste of my time and effort. I even had a few tell me that I was wasting their time by talking to them and that I was wasting my time by even running for office.
Yeah.
I'm terribly concerned about that.
Absolutely.
About people. And I think that the burgeoning oligarchs definitely want to convince us that it's not worth engaging, but engage, and never back down.
Yep.
Absolutely. I think there's so many people that are disenchanted by both parties, right? So, that's just a reality. We're going to see less and people show up. I know Joe Biden got the most votes of any president in history. I know that's hard to believe, but if you don't believe that, you are pretty much a traitor to this country. So there's that. Hey, folks, a couple other points. Number one, we will be posting up. A lot of people have been asked about the training schedule. We will get it up. We're still finalizing some dates. I want to be able to post it up all at once. The other thing, folks, we just got in a lot of people have been asking us to get back in the Berserker t-shirts. We just got those back in. Great t-shirt. If you go to our Patreon account,
blue is a new color.
Blue is a new color.
So even if you have one, get a new blue
If you
one.
go to our Patreon account and you sign up for $15 a month, look, we're going to take care of you. We're going to send you either a sweatshirt or we will send you a shirt and a hat of your choice. So we really do appreciate that support. We'll try to do things like that regularly, but we appreciate your support. The more money you invest in us, this is your channel, right? So the more money you invest in us, that it gives us the ability to do more videos about the things that you love to do or love to see and talk about. So we appreciate the support on that. That goes a long way. Most importantly, buy from us, right? So support us that way. That way we're not begging for charity.
So we can afford to pay taxes.
So we can, that way, the more you buy from us, the less we have on the shelf to pay for taxes over and over again every year.
There you go.
So, support us that way. That's the main way that we would appreciate your support. Think of us for your Christmas gifts. Go to our website, ParamountTactical.com, and you know that when you get something from us, it's been tested, it's proven, right? So if you want to know what Gary thinks and what products to buy, that's where we put those things. And of course, we do our best to make ourselves available to you. If you have questions on anything, shoot us an email, give us a call. I take calls all day long asking about everything, the meaning of life, the best caliber,
42.
Whatever it is. So again, we're here for you. We appreciate the support, and continue to support us so we can continue to grow and be around as long as possible.
By the way, Hunter, I'm gonna contact MPA about that this week. I was looking through my orders and I was like, dang, it's been a while.
What's that?
Shirt with an elastic waist.
No shirts with an elastic.
But Mark, we do have some good size shirts. No, we can.
We have. Well, I guess technically the sweatshirts.
The sweatshirt has an elastic waist.
Mm-hmm.
Sweatshirt has an elastic waist. It was good talking to you today, Mark. I'm glad to hear that you're feeling better too. By the way, it was good to talk to you today. What else? Yep. Hey, make sure you go sign up for our newsletter on our Substack. We're going to have a bunch of stuff coming out there very soon. And I will be announcing something that we're working with our local law enforcement. We're going to be raising some money to get those folks trained in medical. We're probably going to do some pistol training with them too. But my main concern is raising some money to get them trained on the medical side and making sure they have trauma kits in their vehicle, since they are the first ones on the scene most of the time. We want to get them taken care of and give back to this community. Hopefully continue to push that initiative out to other communities as well. I think it's really important. Anyways, folks, we appreciate all the support. Marshall, got any last words?
Thanks for putting up with me, guys. It's a real honor.
You're going to see him more often. We appreciate your time. Stay armed, stay ready, and we'll talk to you soon.